Hey everyone, so this is going to be a really good update video and also show you what to be watching for. I'm going to cram and pack as much information as I possibly can into this video. First, let's start with this. I posted a few 5 waves of energy updates on my YouTube community page from around October through November about the coming pulses and the dates given from Mike from around the world on the Paul Begley show. Now, most of you already know I've been closely following Mike's 5 waves of energy since before the first wave ever hit. I actually listened to his first ever broadcast with Paul as it happened. Every single wave has hit on the exact date given. All the info has been correct. This is why I got so interested and started learning about the different models, graphs, charts, and data and how to read them, which in a little bit I'm going to try and help explain a few things for future references so that people can better understand what I'm showing and what we are looking at. This should help everyone out. Okay, so going over posts from October and November on the pulse dates. It was said that the first pulse, or the first of these pulses, would hit December 10th. The next one would be December 16th, and the bigger, wider one would be about mid-January. Reading parts from the October 28th 5 Waves of Energy update, which will be posted below in description. October 28th. We have even more concentrated bands of this wave coming, looking for a reaction with the sun to this concentrated band of energy. This concentrated pulse of energy holds higher speed particles that we have not seen yet. This band has hundreds of bands and pulses coming in behind it, so exotic particles. Okay, so November 29th update post. There is a pulse track on December 10th. This pulse is abnormal, so let's see what it does. This one is very different. It's the beginning of quite a few, a long durational event. Okay, so December 6th update post. Several pulses of energy are coming. Around the 10th, around the 16th, and a bigger one around mid-January, possibly around the 13th of January. Also, the iron content of the pulses is increasing. Atmosphere disruptions, volcanoes, earthquakes, explosions, hundreds of pulses that are stronger coming in behind it. Okay, so for December 10th, this pulse will be strong, but will only hit about a quarter of the Earth, while some others behind it will hit the entire Earth. We have another one about 6 days later, so the 16th, and about 28 days after that will be an even larger one. Debris fills with these particles and even in between each pulse. Okay, so December 10th came along. I was monitoring all the data, and sure enough, a pulse hits. This also causes the sun to react. Now remember, in the October 28th post, Mike had said, looking for a reaction with the sun to this concentrated band of energy, talking about the one on the 10th. And sure enough, we had that solar eruption, CME. Okay, so there was also several major density spikes. I sent all that data and information to Paul, and he shared it with Mike, who confirmed it. That brings me to the December 13th update post. Paul Begley talked to Mike about the data I sent him with the magnetosphere, density, Schumann resonance, which is Earth's natural heartbeat, ionospheric charging, etc., showing the 10th pulse being confirmed via the data. Mike said that it did not fully hit the Earth, but that we were only grazed by the lower bands of this pulse. So if it just skimmed Earth and it was the lower bands that hit us instead of the entire pulse, and it caused that much on all the models and data, that makes me think the models and data will be even more off the charts with the next pulse, or the next pulses, as they are expected to hit the entire Earth and be bigger and wider. So Paul talked to him about the missing magnetosphere data. There was 4 hours of missing data on the magnetosphere models that I had sent to Paul. So Mike says, with this pulse, there was already some satellite outages and damage this time to to some of the satellites. Satellites kind of hover right there at the rim of the magnetosphere. There was a lot of damage and some major systems went out. So this pulse skimmed us and still caused damage. Mike says when it did skim us, it caused some peaking in several systems. So that would confirm the data I was picking up, or picking up and sending. Okay, so the data peaked that much, and it was just a graze. So imagine the hundreds of others that will be direct hits. So, like stated previously, this pulse was the lower bands and only skimmed us, not the brunt of the pulse. So we only picked up a trace amount of energy that it carried. The other ones are much, much wider. The vertical height with these next ones will likely engulf the Earth. So watch for changes in the colors in the atmosphere and atmospheric changes altogether. Mid-January, so around January 13th, bigger pulse. And we're watching up to January 16th also. Watching our pet's behavior also, that's a big one. Your pet's behavior, how they react, how they're acting. Earthquakes, volcanoes, magnetosphere, ionospheric charging, Schumann resonance, density, etc. Watch January's data. Also remember that January is the backside alignment with the brown dwarf system too. A bigger pulse in January and the backside alignment. I'm sure these pulses and waves are coming from the binary system as it is, so we are still in wave 3, but these pulses inside this third wave. Okay, so wait, we're in wave 3, Mike's, 5 waves of energy. We're in wave 3, but there are pulses inside this wave. So we're still on this wave number 3, and it's a long event before this big 4th wave hits. But there are these pulses that are hitting within this third wave. Okay, so I added this next part to a few of these posts. Yes, it has a big impact on the body. Aches and pains, joints and muscles hurting, anxiety and heart racing or panic feeling. Some get weird heart arrhythmias and heart flutters, migraines, feeling very weird and odd or off like in a dream state, very tired, prickly or tingly skin, pressure in head and ears, ringing in ears, etc. Animals and pet behavioral changes big time. With the earth, yes, it can cause volcanoes and earthquakes. With how hard they will hit, and this could even cause them instantly or the day of. It can cause ionospheric charging also, which can cause earthquakes in the days to weeks after the event. It can cause explosions like chemical plant explosions, gas line explosions, nuclear plant problems, etc. Atmospheric disruptions, atmospheric color changes, sporadic outages, satellite issues, spikes in the Schumann resonance, Earth's natural heartbeat, which is scientifically proven to be linked to our nervous system, and so on. Okay, so these are just some of the things that it can cause. Watching also for fireballs in the sky as the debris field nears with it. Also check out the sky here in Oklahoma. Okay, so I took these. This was the other morning, and I've never seen anything like it. This was the morning of December 12th here in Oklahoma. So I'm also going to share the little video clip from the local news, and I'll share 2 other video clips of mine of the sky that are actual video at the end of this whole video. So at the end of this, go there if you want to see the video clips of the sky here. Okay, so we've just covered the before information, and we have covered the December 10th pulse being confirmed. Well, yesterday was the 16th. So did we get hit? Sure enough, yes. Another pulse hit on December 16th. Here you can see the magnetosphere models, and you can clearly see the pulse hit. The magnetopause model had compression also. So shortly after that, the ionospheric charging went crazy. Now it's good to note to everyone that while the date says December 17th, that is measured in UTC time, and they are ahead of us by 6 hours, so it's still the 16th in America time via this pulse and data. Okay, so the ionospheric charging, the red and blue areas are under high charge, and the black and white areas is extreme charging. So let me explain some of the ionospheric charging real quick, and then I want to explain some of the other data we will be looking at in the future so that you know what you are looking at when I start sharing this number data. Now this is very important for the coming pulses. Okay, so ionospheric charging tech data. Tech means total electron content. Ionospheric charging. Now charging events equals earthquakes. The effects of the ionosphere can cause range rate errors for users of GPS satellites. Observed ionospheric behavior varies over the Earth and can be generalized into auroras, mid-latitude and the equilateral regions. Okay, so when we get geomagnetic storms, we can see the ionospheric charging picking up. This is also why we have outages of all kinds, including GPS and radio blackouts. This can help us to forecast earthquakes. Ionospheric charge could forewarn of earthquakes. For example, on January 12, 2010, a magnitude 7 earthquake rocked Haiti's capital, destroying much of the city and killing more than 200,000 people. Satellite records of atmospheric electron activity high above the island revealed an unusual pattern of behavior in the ionosphere in the months leading up to the quake. Scientists have long known that some minerals, quartz for example, can produce electricity when deformed under pressure. The phenomenon has been replicated replicated in the lab by applying stress to a slab of granite and measuring the ensuing electrical current. The days, weeks, and months before earthquakes, intense stresses on rocks along faults can create this effect that produces free positive ions. When released into the atmosphere, these ions rise upward under the influence of Earth's global electromagnetic field. Positive ions can travel upward at speeds of 20 to 30 meters per second. Influxes of ions into the atmosphere have been well studied due to their influence on radio communications, which are impacted by ion concentrations in the ionosphere. So fluxes of cosmic radiation in Earth's magnetic field can cause electrical turbulence and disrupt radio waves. The same effect can also be generated by earthquakes. Okay, so here is a NASA paper, Warnings from the Ionosphere. Can electric signals in Earth's atmosphere predict earthquakes? Ask seismologists when they'll be able to predict earthquakes, and the answer is generally sometime between the distant future and never. However, some scientists think that Earth's crust may give hints before it ruptures, in the form of electromagnetic anomalies in the ground and atmosphere that occur minutes to days before an earthquake. So Heike, a geophysicist in Japan, first got interested in this subject when he spotted an increase in the total electron content of the ionosphere, the charged outermost layer of the ionosphere, above Japan about 40 minutes before the magnitude 9-point earthquake struck in 2011. He had long used GPS data to study ionospheric responses to earthquakes. He was skeptical of electromagnetic precursors, but since then he has used the world's growing array of GPS stations to identify similar signals before 9 other major earthquakes. He explained at a meeting, and in addition he has found that earlier anomalies precede stronger earthquakes, potentially reflecting the longer time needed to initiate rupture along larger segments of a fault. So now he says he's convinced there is really something going on, saying seeing is believing. Based on the TEC, total electron content derived from the Global Positioning System, or GPS system, we detected and analyzed the ionospheric variations during the 2015 7.8 Nepal earthquake, including the pre-earthquake ionospheric anomalies and co-seismic ionospheric disturbances. Another page says ionospheric disturbances around the time of the 7-point Lushan earthquake. There are other articles out there like these also. So conclusion, yes, we can use TEC data to forecast earthquake activity. Hopefully this is helpful to understand the TEC ionospheric charging data and the how and why behind it. Okay, so we've had a lesson in earthquakes and the ionospheric charging. Let's move to the solar wind data. I've spent some time last night putting something together on the real-time solar wind data. So let me get that. Okay, so when I go over the density and speed, I've been asked what the BT, BX, BY, and BZ data means. I frequently use density and speed, but to touch on the others, the BT value indicates the total strength of the IMF, which is the interplanetary magnetic field. BT is a measure of the strength of the magnetic field at the ACE satellite. For example, if you have a large pulse wave of particles, that large pulse produced by a CME or something else, which carries a magnetic charge towards Earth, it will bring a magnetic force as it passes by or hits us. So BT measures the strength of the magnetic field as the CME or pulse or wave hits or passes by the Earth. Remember this, the higher the BT value number, the more likely or better it is for enhanced geomagnetic conditions, meaning geomagnetic storms. Note that on the NASA magnetosphere models, we can also watch for magnetic disruptions and eddy formations in the magnetic field lines. Okay, so on that graph, we'd watch for a high number with the BT. BX, BY, and BZ. BZ is a measure of the direction of the magnetic field. The field has 3 components in the magnetic force, BX, BY, and BZ. When BZ is south, negative on the chart, it is opposite to Earth's poles, and there can be significant interactions producing auroras. So when the north-south direction of IMF flips south, the magnetic field lines connect to the Earth's magnetosphere, which faces north. A rift opens that allows the solar wind to pour into our magnetosphere. For auroras, the longer the BZ has been negative and the stronger the negative number is, the stronger the aurora will be. Okay, so BX and BY positions. We can focus less on BX and BY, but BT and BZ are the main ones. So we are watching for higher numbers on BT and lower negative numbers on BZ. Okay, so now about the density. Cosmic rays, radiation, high energy protons, a particle proton with a positive electric charge. Okay, so this density data is measured in cubic centimeters. So about 3 to 6 protons, particles of cosmic radiation. Okay, so hold on. So about 3 to 6 protons, particles of cosmic radiation a cubic centimeter is hitting normally. So that's normal. The higher the density number, the more charged particles or cosmic radiation is hitting. So we want to mainly focus on the density, BT, BZ, and speed. Also about the ACE satellite. So the ACE satellite means Advanced Composition Explorer. So the Advanced Composition Explorer is a NASA Explorers Program solar and space exploration mission to study matter comprising energetic particles from the solar wind, the interplanetary medium, and other sources. This gives ACE real-time solar data. So I hope this helps explain the TEC ionospheric charging charts and the solar wind data for future references. So we know that Pulse 1 hit on the 10th and that the pulse hit yesterday on the 16th. So now we are watching January. We really need to be on high alert for volcanic activity and earthquakes in January anyways because of the backside alignment with the brown dwarf system. So January needs to be watched. Okay, also note that the charging that took place from the pulse on the 10th was heavily charged over places like the Philippines. It just so happens that 5 days later, the Philippines was hit with a 6.9 earthquake. The ionospheric charging for the 16th pulse shows ionospheric charging heavily over areas like Japan, Hawaii, New Zealand, Indonesia, Africa, and off the west coast of Mexico. Okay, there is very slight charging over the east coast also. So earthquake watch is in place. I'm going to link some recent articles below that you all might find interesting also. For example, remember when Mike brought forth that secret image of a place very, very close to Antarctica that showed that it goes way down further than anyone could ever imagine? That big slit in the earth, like a cavern he talked about. He brought that forward on July 11th. Well, scientists have just found the deepest land on Earth hiding beneath Antarctica's ice, the deepest canyon on Earth. Now, we know they probably already knew about it, but still, it's cool information that they're coming out with, and this fits in with Mike's secret image and what he talked about. Okay, I'm also sharing this link, Mars quakes. The Mars quakes are coming fast and furious. NASA's InSight mission is detecting about 2 quakes per day, and the rate is going up. Other early findings from the mission include mysterious magnetic pulses that appear around midnight each night. Mysterious magnetic pulses that appear around midnight each night? I mean, that sounds a little odd. They also say 2 of the biggest Mars quakes hit in May and in July. Oddly enough, July is when we saw an increase in earthquakes here, including the big ones on the West Coast and Canada. But that's not so odd after all, because remember, that was the front side alignment with the brown dwarf system in July. And it impacts the whole solar system and not just Earth, so of course planets would react. Okay, so the rate of quakes has been increasing over time from a few sporadically reported after landing to the current pace of 2 a day. Mission scientists aren't sure why. Equally mysterious are the magnetic pulsations that show up every night. InSight measured them with its magnetometer. Sorry, I'm so tongue-tied today. And they may be related to something happening in the space environment around Mars. One idea is that they are created when charged particles slam into Mars' magnetic field. Also, mysterious tectonic fault zone found off California. Remember in October they also said that unprecedented movement detected on California earthquake fault capable of an 8-point, saying, "This is surprising because we've never seen the Garlock fault do anything. Here, all of a sudden, it changed its behavior." Now we know why. So we really need to be on alert around January and even more so with the front side alignment in July. Those are just 2 heightened months to watch or to write down to watch. Okay, so I'll go ahead and wrap this up now because it's getting long. I hope this helped cover the pulses of energy and the data being monitored and how to understand some of the data. I hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas, and thanks again for everyone's support. Really couldn't do it without you all. Thanks again. I came back on real quick to note this. I had posted that there was a significant earthquake in Ridgecrest, California. It was a 3.6, and then there was a 3.5 after that. And we've just had a 4.3 in California. So I want to add those here. You can see those right there. So that we can keep watching California, because those are pretty significant. They had died down, and now it's starting to ramp back up. Remember that backside alignment in January? We need to watch this. Watch the activity there, the swarms. So a 3.6, 3.5, and a 4.3 California.